Yes.
Okay.
Just in general, I am confused.
Okay. Okay. Can you focus that confusion in a particular area?
I'm not really sure what you want from me in these questions.
Okay.
Like I know you say like deeply reflect upon your personal thinking as it relates, but I don't know how like it relates to the book.
Okay. So, which question are you?
I'm talking about the first question about critical, question A in critical synthesis 1.
Okay.
So
How
like,
did the book push you to more deeply reflect upon your personal thinking about race and racial trauma, encourage you to reflect upon your biases, and enhance your understanding of the history of racism in the United States regarding African Americans? What can't be more clear than?
well, that's not the part that I'm having a problem with. Yeah, exactly. I was like,
So last time I talked a little bit about what that question is trying to get. So what you want to do is you want to look at Alexander's book and how did it reinforce or confirm your own experiences. And that can include family or friends with the criminal justice system. So in other words, from my perspective, police tend not to be very aggressive with me. And in fact, the last time I was stopped, I didn't get a ticket. Even though I made a turn on, I think it was a turn on red or a no right turn kind of thing. And he just said, just be more careful. That would be my experience with the criminal justice system, or, the limited one that I have. And I would contrast that with how African Americans, especially as it's portrayed in the book, how their experiences are different. Okay, if I was, had darker skin, how would that interaction be different? Okay, so when you think about Alexander's book, when you think about the New Jim Crow, how does that? Is that a different view for you? Is that something that you assume that African Americans and people of color are treated differently, or did you kind of just assume that the police treat everybody in the exact same way, and that like a lot of people think that they must have done something, okay? They must have been disrespectful to the police or didn't comply. When we all know, especially, I think it was the police shooting in Minnesota, I want to say, where the guy, and I think they mentioned it on one of the videos, basically told the officer, I do have a firearm, it's in the car with me, and then was shot anyway. Didn't try to reach for the gun, but the police officer was so spooked by that, I assume, that he reacted in the way that he did. Okay, does that make a little bit more sense? These questions are really a mouthful of it's a mouthful of academe speak, which for me, I can interpret that, I can understand it, I can totally understand why it might be that question and the other questions could be confusing. Any other questions that you're struggling with to kind of figure out what the heck we're really asking in this assignment? Again, this is not my assignment, this is the signature assignment, so everyone in the IU system gets this assignment that takes this class.
How does the second question, I mean, the first differ from the second?
Well, the second one, let me reread it, because I'm looking at my comments, I want to make sure that they're in line.
So the one you just read, and then the second one was, how did your learning challenge previously held assumptions?
Okay. I think my interpretation is taken more from that second question than the first. The first one kind of assumes that all this is brand new to you, and that, and that this book has changed your life. There's an assumption there, I think, which may not be the case. Especially I think for persons of color who, might experience something like this. But again, the writers are not writing from, writing from a less inclusive perspective and making the assumption that most students that are in the school are white. So that first question, it is also just kind of trying to get a sense of to what degree did this text change how you view the criminal justice system in terms of African Americans. And I guess they really are asking very similar things. It's just Amy is emailing me. I don't know if she can't get on or not. Sorry. Alright, we'll just go ahead and, so yeah, they're kind of asking very similar things in different ways. But again, if you kind of just talk about how the book has either confirmed or reinforced your experience, your perceptions of the criminal justice system, or how it's challenged your perceptions of the criminal justice system, that is totally fine. So again, if you kind of believed that, before reading the book, that it was totally fair and everybody gets equal representation and all that kinds of things, then this probably would have changed your perception of the criminal justice system.
Okay, so in the first question, we'll state our biases, and then the second question, we'll say how the bias was challenged.
Yeah, you can talk about how you view the criminal justice system, and what's your own personal experience or personal perception of the criminal justice system. And how did the book affect your perception of the criminal justice system, especially in relation to African Americans? Does that make sense?
Now I'm reading all the questions, all of them sound the same, besides the last one. The last few. The one, two, three. The first three sound the same.
Yeah, they're definitely similar. The way I interpret this, and I would definitely write this down. I perceive that I interpret the second question to mean, what are your own biases against people of color, and including people of color living in poverty?
You mean the first?
I'm talking about the second question. Again, there's assumption that your understanding about oppression and racism has changed after reading the book, which may not necessarily be the case if you're familiar with a lot of the issues that she talked about. they're very similar, you know. And also, I believe, oh, actually, I'm looking at my comments and I attributed the wrong one. That first question is where you want to talk about your biases against people of color and people of color living in poverty. Okay, sorry about that. In the second question, that's where you want to talk about your initial views of oppression and racism and what they are like today. After reading the book, even after, you know, getting exposed to the material in the class. And then that third question, how might racial trauma manifest itself? So what do you think it might look like in your social work practice? And how might the new knowledge that you're gaining from the book and the class affect your work with clients? Does that kind of make sense? Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that I got this 100% right.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so the first question was like, our previous biases about like the criminal justice system, racism, and oppression.
Right.
The second question is what we've kind of learned throughout the class, correct? And like after reading the book and everything.
Actually, I'm suggesting that you, you want to talk about, yeah, I guess so. I mean, I guess you, in the first question, you're going to talk about your biases.
Okay.
And then in that second question, you can kind of refer back to your answer, you know, or just describe, you know, what your bias is toward the intersection between the racism in the criminal justice system. And then in that second question, you're going to talk about, you know, what is it today? And when you talk about, in question 3, when you discuss racial trauma, what it might look like, you don't have to limit yourself to social work practice. Just you can also talk about racial trauma in general. You know, what does it look like? Okay, just in the in society in general. Any other questions? Should I talk about the second part?
So the second part is just essentially like how we would take what we learned from this book in order to be better social workers.
Basically.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, so what's your plan to change society?
Yeah.
How can you advocate for human rights?
Okay.
And we'll talk a bit about that tonight.
Cool.
So in particular, it's looking for particular steps that you take, so you want to be as specific as possible. So in other words, when you're talking about how you might advocate for human rights, you want to go into some detail. Don't just say, well, I'm going to utilize the deductive approach to human rights. You want to talk about specifically what would that look like. You know, are you opposed to Declaration of Human Rights on your office wall and refer to it with clients, or what exactly are you going to do? Alright. And that third question is basically asking something very similar. Just how will you integrate human rights and also anti-oppressive social work in your social work practice? So you wanna make reference to not just the IFE book, but the Malawi book as well. And Malawi does offer some suggestions about how to, have an anti-oppressive social work practice. Because some practice of social work can be oppressive.